This video is sponsored by Manscaped. Now when I say the name Manscaped, I'm sure you have a pretty clear picture in mind. They are, after all, the top brand in male grooming. And I've been loving their products, but while my nether regions have been very well kept by their product line, I was on the lookout for something to maintain the hair that I openly display on my face. So literally right when that thought entered my mind, Manscaped hit me up with their beard hedger trimmer. And honestly, I've used a lot of razors and trimmers, and this thing is the most convenient one that I've ever used. As I expected from Manscaped, it's wireless, waterproof, and rechargeable, which is perfect because I like to get my shaving done in the shower for maximum efficiency. And plus, I don't have to worry about a bunch of different attachments with different lengths because the beard hedger comes with a single guard that has 20 adjustable lengths. It is insanely versatile. It's like everything I need in just one little kit. I don't have to mess around with any attachments. I don't need to worry about a cord. It's perfect. It's all in one. And that's not all. The kit also included beard shampoo and beard conditioner, so your beard can be clean, fresh, and silky smooth, as well as some nice and earthy beard oil and beard balm to touch up your face fur after the shower. So, if you're like me and you haven't had a reliable way to trim your facial hair, you can head over to manscaped.com/Cosmonaut to get 20% off plus free shipping when you use code Cosmonaut at checkout. Again, that is 20% off plus free international shipping with promo code Cosmonaut at manscaped.com. And of course, I would like to thank Manscaped for sponsoring this video.
Cosmonaut Quickie!
Ant-Man 3 Quantumania is out and it promises to bring a new era to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And the early reviews were not kind, but I am at least pleased to say that the movie was not as bad as I expected it to be. It wasn't that good either, but I'll take what I can get. For all intents and purposes, this is just a normal Marvel movie. It wasn't really bad enough to make me mad, and it wasn't good enough to leave an impact. But it stands out a little more because you can tell that Marvel's trying to usher in some big new story arcs with this movie, and if this is how they're gonna do it, I'm pretty disappointed. This movie isn't really particularly made with any more passion or effort than the previous mediocre movies of the last year or two. All of the things that people have been ragging on the MCU for are on full display here. I think the two biggest flaws of this movie for me were the performances and the editing. Firstly, the editing is so bad that it was making me angry in the first third of the movie. And I know it's not something that most people give a shit about, but some of the cuts are so badly timed that it made a lot of the sequences difficult to watch. I don't have footage of these scenes, but it was something that constantly pulled me out of the story. It was very distracting. It's just one of those things where this is a multi-million-dollar franchise, and at the very least, I expect the editing to be better than something I could do. But the one thing that most people will notice, however, are the performances. This is a movie where the actors are primarily in CG environments, and it's very clear that outside of Paul Rudd and Jonathan Majors, nobody else is very comfortable in this setting. Normal lines of dialogue are delivered very awkwardly, and the chemistry between the Pym gang is just off. The worst offender is Kathryn Newton, who is the new actress portraying Cassie. She has no chemistry at all with Paul Rudd, which is pretty bad because we see them interact for the entire movie. I was sure that I hadn't seen her in any other movies before this, but I do remember that she was in Detective Pikachu, and she was the worst actress in that too. Now, no, I am not going to fully judge this girl's talent based on a Pokemon movie and a Marvel movie, but I will say, she's not making this movie any better. And honestly, it doesn't even matter if you're a good actor or not. Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Douglas can act, but you wouldn't be able to tell here. And we even have a brief cameo from Bill Murray, and honestly, it may be the single worst Bill Murray performance I've ever seen in my life. It's a shame too, because Paul Rudd is doing just fine, but it feels like all of the supporting cast is just pulling him down. And really the only performance that I had no issue with was, unsurprisingly, Jonathan Majors. I've liked everything I've seen him in, and I really liked him in Loki. I was very excited to see him in this movie, and thankfully everything that has to do with Kang in this movie is very interesting. It's probably the stuff that saves the movie from being complete shit. For the first third or so, the movie was kind of insufferable because it relies on a storytelling trope that I kind of hate. The trope where one character knows what's going on in the story, but refuses to explain anything. Michelle Pfeiffer spends a good chunk of this movie walking around mysteriously, and whenever anybody asks her what's going on, she just says, "I don't have time to explain." And then they just keep walking along in silence, and that shit makes me so mad. And they do the same thing when Ant-Man is off on his own with Cassie, and they're talking to other characters who just can't explain what's going on to these newcomers, even though it would be very beneficial for everybody if they did so. And for the first third, we're shown new environments without any context for what we're looking at, and it just makes for a very frustrating experience. For the first third, I was not having very much fun. I was ready to give this movie like a 2 or a 3, but once Kang enters the story, things did improve a lot. There's an interesting encounter with Scott having to steal something in a way that is very appropriate to Ant-Man. Because in previous Ant-Man movies, I felt like Scott is kind of second fiddle to the rest of the stuff that's going on around him. It doesn't really matter if he's in the movie or not. But here it definitely feels like this is an Ant-Man movie, and that's probably the first time I could say that for one of the Ant-Man movies. I also appreciated that this story was on a relatively smaller scale. Haha. I think fleshing out Kang a bit more in this separate world was a good idea, but I think that they kind of fumbled the bag on explaining to us his motivations. Like, this is supposed to be the next big bad, and we don't really know what he wants. We don't really know what he believes in. We just know that he's strong, and he's intimidating, and he has a lot of charisma. And I guess it's not the worst, because that is more than we had with Thanos, but I do think you gotta hook us in early if you want to try to get us invested in a new bad guy. Like, I think he's cool because I have context from another appearance he has in a TV show, and years worth of comic books to pull from, but I'm very curious to see how the layman takes this character, if they're sold on him or not. That's something that I'm not sure about. Maybe I'm just wanting more because I do think Kang was the best part of the movie, but I don't know. I think that everything this movie sets up is very interesting. I like the ambiguity and open-ended nature of the ending. Overall, the ending and what it sets up was very fun for me, but this is not just something that sets up other movies. This is a movie on its own, and I can't say it exactly worked for me. I felt like it was very lacking, and this is disappointing because I was kind of looking forward to this one. Marvel really can't keep getting away with making movies as formulaic as this one. Eventually people are not really going to care how good your endings and post-credits are. People are on the verge of not giving a shit about the MCU anymore. And I've teased it a lot with these last few videos, but I think my next video is definitely going to have to be one where I talk about this new MCU problem at length. But for now, I'll say that I didn't exactly hate this movie, but that's only because I don't have very many strong feelings about it. It's probably the best Ant-Man movie, but I don't really think that's saying very much. So I'm gonna give Quantumania a 5 out of 10.